say happy for Chaplains Day?
Happy for Chaplains Day.
I mean, you can say it, but should one say it? Because it's obviously not a happy event that we're commemorating, but it is a noble event that we're commemorating, and it should inspire, the heroes within us all to think about our higher nature, our higher self.
Is that like saying Happy Veterans Day?
See, Happy Veterans Day, we should have a conversation about this. I like Happy Veterans Day because I think Veterans Day is a celebration of veterans. Memorial Day is not a happy day. I don't think you say Happy Memorial Day. I'm sure you don't say Happy Memorial Day. It's a more solemn. It's a solemn day. Excuse me.
Voice of God.
Sorry, that was Facebook.
That was Facebook. That was Facebook, kind of like reverberating or whatever.
Yeah. Oh, creepy.
Has Facebook become conscious?
I've muted Facebook now.
So
we've reached the Cyberdyne of Facebook.
Okay, so hold on. I have to get our theme song ready, and I have to figure out which one we're going to play. We don't quite have a theme song yet, but we are choosing between two. And let me.
I really like
I hear
the one we use
baby
for Monday nights. If you haven't heard the one on Monday nights, come join us Monday night and listen to our happy hour music.
Our happy hour theme song. So let me share the sound of my computer. What do you think? Okay, I'll share sound. Sound only. Got it. All right.
All right.
And then what do we have? 1 minute?
About
1 minute. Okay. Yeah, I know how to do this.
Okay. I have 9.
Okay.
Very inspiring.
It is. Good morning song. Good morning, everyone. Hello. Hey, Ed. Hey, John Kramer. We got Dennis McCarthy, Stevie. I can tell by his hat. Rick Weber. Good to see ya. Andy. Ben Wright. Ida May. Jim. Good to see you all. So we're experimenting with our opening theme song here. And that is the first candidate. Is that the Santucci's? Is that Ralph and Molly? Good to see you. Oh my gosh. Great to see you, Ralph Santucci and Molly Santucci. Good to see you guys. I haven't seen you on our program yet. This is great. Well, let me introduce myself. I'm Todd. This is the Veterans Breakfast Club. This is our Veterans Breakfast Club. Sometimes we call it a coffee hour. Sometimes we call it a virtual breakfast. It's 9 a.m. on Wednesday morning. We're a nonprofit based in Western Pennsylvania, but we do these programs to have veterans come together and share their stories with the public. And our Wednesday morning is kind of it's more of an open conversation kind of format. And for the first time today, we are live streaming our Wednesday morning breakfast on Facebook Live and YouTube. And with me are Sean Hall, our Director of Programming. Hello, Sean.
Good morning, everyone.
Good to see you. And we have Ellie DiPastino, who is barely awake in Chicago. Hello, Ellie.
Hello.
How are you?
Good morning. Pretty good.
And I'm going to ask the Santucci's to unmute, if you can.
Okay.
Good to see you, Santucci's. Thank God you're there, Molly. Straighten these guys out.
Yeah, I'm trying.
It's good to see you.
Can you hear us? Can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Okay, good. Great.
We can barely hear. This is great. We've got the Santucci brothers, terrific, joining us. I haven't seen you on our programs yet, and I know we also, I believe, hello, Francis Hines. We have a couple Coast Guard veterans, Dale Gower and Francis Hines, and we also have, I believe, Larry Gamrett. Yeah, Larry, we can't see your face, but I know you're there. I see your hand just waved. Larry Gamrett, he's a Vietnam veteran, Army veteran, And so we're going to talk about today. It is For Chaplains Day. And the first question I have for everybody is, can you say happy For Chaplains Day? Is it appropriate?
Happy
Is it
Fourth
appropriate?
Chaplains Day.
That's not what I meant. I meant
That's what you
we
said.
can say it, but is it appropriate that one says, like, I think, for example, it's not appropriate to say happy Memorial Day because Memorial Day is not a happy day. It's a solemn day. I do think it's okay, unlike Jim Roberts here, to say happy Veterans Day. He does not like happy Veterans Day because I think Veterans Day is a celebration of veterans, but Jim and I could argue about that. For Chaplains Day, not a happy day it's not a happy event that we memorialize on February 3rd. We're memorializing the death of 4 chaplains from different, religions, different churches who, willingly gave their lives to save others in the North Atlantic when the SS Dorchester went down. And Sharon Volpe is here to kind of share some of the history of that with us. Her great-grandfather died on the SS Dorchester. I said to Sean and Ellie before we started here, happy for Chaplains Day, because I guess although it is a sad event, it's something noble that we're commemorating, and it's something inspiring that we're commemorating. I mean, these were 4 men who really knew what they were getting into. They really did. And when they stood on that ship as it went down and linked arms and sang together, they knew what was happening to them. And it just inspires the heck out of me and makes me wonder if I would have the courage to do the same. And I'm pretty certain that I wouldn't. But it is so inspiring. So anyhow, I don't know what you all think about that, or if you have an opinion on, can you say happy For Chaplains Day? But
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
yeah, Ed says you can.
My brother John thought about, he's a priest, but he thought about chaplain ministry. My sister Roseanne, some of our children got communion they're at the Navy base in Pensacola, Florida. So they belonged to the chapel. So a couple of them got their first communion. Really nice, like they divided, like they have Catholic, they have Protestant, they have all the different religions, and they have like a whole building dedicated to Catholic and all the other religions. Really, really
Yeah.
nice. So
Yeah, I agree.
Hey, Todd,
Yes.
and I'm not going to get into, I know you don't want to get into politics, and this is a religious thing, but in the Bible it says, any man who lays down his life for another.
John
that's the ultimate
5:13.
Sacrifice.
Yeah.
So I
Yep.
would say happy, because, we've all, anyone that's been in the service in a combat zone has lost people. And most of them we're okay with, because 1, that's part of the war. Secondly, if you know the person well, you know where they are.
Yeah.
And to me, it's emotional thing, but by the same token, I know where these guys are, because they're doing something not for glory, but they did something that they felt that they needed to do. So I would say yes, absolutely. And happy Veterans Day. Most people don't understand about Veterans Day, Memorial Day. And when a person says, well, you're a vet, thank you for your service, you have to let it go. You can't say to them, well, I didn't want to go and blah, blah, blah. So yeah, most people don't understand it. So I would say happy, because those guys are happy. I guarantee you they're happy.
I think that's the distinction for me, is that you're right in a sense. I mean, without getting too into religion, they were reenacting Good Friday. I mean, they willingly went to their
Absolutely.
deaths. And Ben Wright, I think, is he here today? I can't quite see if he's on the screen.
Yes,
Ben
he
Wright.
is.
Yes, sir, I'm here.
Hey, Ben,
you
isn't
go.
Isn't it a feast day in the Episcopal calendar?
No, it's not on our calendar. There's a lot of other things on there. But it was certainly on this day in history on all my news media things this morning.
Yeah. Yeah. So for Chaplains Day, Sharon, would you want to, let people know just briefly, if they haven't heard of For Chaplains Day, what it's all about and what we're commemorating today?
Hi, everyone. My great-grandfather was on the Dorchester, and I had lived with his wife, his estranged wife. There were some issues. And his son, who joined the Navy to fight in World War II the day before Arthur, my great-grandfather, got on the Dorchester. And I lived with his daughter, which was my grandmother, and she would take people in as they needed help. So I grew up hearing about him, but I never realized which ship he was on. I heard it was a famous ship, but they didn't give me much more details than that. And the thing I always say is kids never ask questions when they should ask questions. They don't care about such things. But then when we get older and there's no one to ask those questions to, that's when we want to know everything. And that's the situation I was in when I finally discovered what he was a part of, that I did not have those relatives to ask a lot of questions to. But I do research it very much now, and I have spent a great deal of time listening to and just working with the chapel out in Philadelphia. It's an amazing organization that tries to keep the memory of the 4 chaplains alive. And I know that all of you have heard the story, and I am myself not a military person. I'm not a veteran, but I have had relatives fight in every war except for Desert Storm. And Arthur went on the 27th of January, 1943. He boarded the Dorchester with 901 other men. And the Dorchester was this gorgeous cruise ship at one time, but it was older, and the military took it from whoever owned it and painted it gray so that it would be more hidden in the ocean. And they removed all the casinos, all the luxury. And I tell my students this story often, and military people always get it, but students are always shocked by it, that the rooms there's not a comfortable room on a cruise ship. We all have this vision of these glorious rooms, but they're tiny to begin with, and they're only meant for 2 people. Well, they had 6 to 8 men with bunks piled 3 or 4 high. And the rooms were just sweltering, like they were so hot, and it was freezing outside. There were icebergs in the area. They were traveling to Greenland, but none of them knew that. And they had no clue that they were going to guard minefields, to guard the airports, the airstrips, not airports, airstrips. So they're clueless as they enter that ship. And on the 29th, they took a stop in Newfoundland. And in Newfoundland is probably where they learned how dangerous that part of the world was at the time. The joke in Newfoundland was that you could walk from Newfoundland to Greenland and not even get your feet wet, because you could just step on all the German U-boats in the area and you could just walk straight there. Obviously, not a funny joke.
Yeah.
Second was when the storm was absolutely horrible. There were buckets filled, sinks were overflowing, toilets were overflowing, because the men were just so violently ill. And then the storm cleared, and it was still hot, and it still smelled bad below deck. The group of men, the famous group of men that I will talk more about in a second, decided to have a talent show to lighten the mood. Even though they were all, these 4 men knew what was happening. They knew that they were being followed. And the men were then told after the talent show that they were to sleep in full gear. They were supposed to lose their heavy boots. They were supposed to prepare for a disaster. They were supposed to put their lighter shoes on that would not drag them down if they did go out into the water. But below deck, as I said, it was hot. And so most of the men, many of the men did not listen to orders, and they stripped down to just their underwear. They were supposed to sleep even in their life preservers, and they just couldn't do it. So it was shortly after 1 a.m. that the U-223 popped its periscope, and the other ships that were with them, there were 3 Coast Guard cutters, and there were 2 other transport ships, but they were in better shape than the Dorchester, and they had moved ahead. So the Dorchester falling behind was the ultimate victim, and the U-223 had been instructed that he was only allowed to shoot 1 torpedo per boat, per ship, and he violated the rules, and he shot 3. One was a direct hit below the waterline. It hit the boiler room, and it almost cut the Dorchester in half. Men ran topside in just their underwear. Men were crying, screaming. There was reported a cook, I almost said chef, and we know that's not true. Cook got stuck in one of the portholes and was screaming, and men reported hearing his screaming until the ship went under. Somebody had to be shot because he was trying to cut through line, and he was literally cutting with a knife, and somebody else shot him to get him to stop his rampage. Of the 14 lifeboats, only 2 of them had people who were rescued. Some of the lifeboats during the storm were stuck with ice to the side of the ship. Some of them had just broken loose upon impact. Some of them had capsized. Some of them had just gotten away. And more than a couple had capsized with men on them. So only 230 men survived. And it was protocol for the Coast Guard to race to the rescue. But the captain of the Coast Guard at that time was too afraid. And he didn't go back because he was afraid that U-223 was still in the area, and it was. It had immediately gone as far down as it could go because it knew that the charges were coming. So by the time the Coast Guard went back, there weren't many men still surviving. In 20 minutes, most of them succumbed to the cold water. On one of the ships, on the I can never remember which one it was on. But one of the Coast Guard cutters was working with, it was the Escanaba.
Escanaba, and that's this one, I think, in the picture.
Yes, and they had they were working with the PRAS system, and basically it was like a yo-yo, and they would dip a man into the water, and he would grab 2 people and just flash them back up to the boat and then immediately go back in. And it was the other night, I couldn't remember the name of the man, but it was Charles David. Charles David succumbed to pneumonia not long after that because he had saved so many people out of the water, but he himself, the water was just too uncompromising.
And this is Charles David, a Coast Guardsman on the Escanaba.
Correct.
Right.
And the story that's amazing about him, and I'll get to that in a minute. Let me go back a little bit. But the story that comes out from this that we've all been talking about is that there were 4 incredible men on the ship. There was 2 Protestant chaplains, a Catholic priest, and a Jewish rabbi. And the stories of them even getting to that point are amazing. George Fox, born in Lewistown, PA, there he is. He had left school during World War I. He lied about his age to be a part of World War I. And he was in the medical corps. And he left with all kinds of awards. He had the Purple Heart. He had the Silver Star. And I don't know how to say the one that has the French name. Croix de Guerre. And but then after the war, he returned to Altoona. He was raising a family. And when Pearl Harbor was bombed, he went to chaplain school at Harvard, and that's where he met the other chaplains. Rabbi Alexander Good, he was already leading this amazing life. And I just read about him. I had not read this anywhere else until recently. He had received an award before the war because he had started a multicultural Boy Scout troop. And in this multicultural Boy Scout troop, it was the first troop to get a Catholic award, a Protestant award, and a Jewish award. And so now there's a Boy Scout camp somewhere in Pennsylvania that is dedicated. It was dedicated in his memory. Then there was Clark Poling. He was a Reformed Dutch. It was also a Protestant. He was born in Ohio. He didn't think, his story in itself is amazing. He didn't think it was fair that other people were losing their lives during the war and that he wasn't. And he was a minister. And so somebody told him that it was just as dangerous, and it's actually kind of more dangerous, for chaplains in the military. So that was his calling. And he asked his father to pray for him, not to bring him home alive, but that he would be courageous during battle. Mm-hmm. And then finally, there was Father John Washington. He grew up in New Jersey. He was all in when the war started. He immediately enlisted, and he was in charge of the chaplains out of Harvard. So,
and all these met each other at Harvard, right? At chaplain school at Harvard,
right,
before they ever boarded the Dorchester.
Correct. But like when they were commissioned, because they're immediately commissioned as lieutenants, they would have been in the know that they were being hunted. They would have been one of the first to know it. They still had to walk around, remaining calm. And again, the story I always tell is that my father-in-law, during that time in history, went to Catholic school, and he was not even allowed to talk to Protestants. He was not allowed to talk to anyone Jewish. And so these men grew up during that time period. So it was shocking for them to see these people of different religions. They were bunking together. They were walking around together. They were laughing, joking. They were doing everything together. And all the men who were interviewed talked about the surprise in that, and how they lived on that ship like all of us should live now. So when the ship was hit, the lieutenants the chaplains were on deck immediately. Oh. They started passing out. They found 2 boxes of life jackets. They were passing out life jackets to the men who find their life jackets in their room. During the chaos, rooms went pitch black. All electricity was cut off. So they couldn't find any of their equipment. They raced topside. But the chaplains calmly, they were calming the men who were crying. They were passing out these life jackets. But then they got to the end of the box, and it was the first person to be interviewed about this was an engineer. And he said it was the most amazing sight that the chaplains just simply took off their vest and handed them to the next person in line. And the literature that comes out of the chapel that is dedicated to their memory in Philadelphia is that at no time did Alexander Good call out for a Jew, and at no time did Father John Washington call out for a Catholic. They just took their vest off and gave them to the next men in line. Now, Alexander did see somebody starting to try to run down below deck, and he stopped them to ask them why. And the petty officer knew that without his gloves, he couldn't survive in that water. So Chaplain Good said, "Here, take mine. I have another pair." And it wasn't until significantly later that the guy realized that there was no way he had that. He knew that he was going down with the ship. And so they remained on the ship. People were begging them to get into their lifeboats, but they refused because they had seen too many topside. And they stayed and prayed with the men who were not able to get on a lifeboat. And as the ship was going down, the men who were close enough heard the praying and the singing, and they heard Hebrew, they heard Latin, and they heard English. And they simply slipped under the water with the ship. So they gave up their lives in service in a way that few others could ever say that they would do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And the story became very well known like that year in 1943, and they became real heroes on the home front during World War II. I think this postage stamp came in the years immediately after the war. But they're commemorated much, right, around the
There
country.
are. I was just reading because I was trying. The chapel at the Pittsburgh International Airport was dedicated to them in 1994. The Jewish Community Center in Pittsburgh has above their gymnasium a sign dedicated to the 4 chaplains. There are more than 400 dedications throughout the country to the 4 chaplains. And the biggest, of course, is the chapel out in Philadelphia at Navy Pier.
Right. And Ken Rozicki, thank you for sending me this picture of memorial to the 4 chaplains from the Leetsdale VFW in Leetsdale, PA. I didn't know that was there.
It's the most amazing things that this chapel still does is they award people who posthumously people who have given up their lives, who are not military men, who are not policemen, who are just common citizens who gave up their lives to save others.
Right.
Now, the award they did give to somebody was somebody in the Coast Guard. It was to that Charles David. He was an African-American man, a large African-American man, and his best friend was white. And when they stopped in Newfoundland, they couldn't even hang out together. They couldn't go to the same places. They couldn't go, they just couldn't even be seen together without his white friends receiving repercussions. So here's this man, African-American, who saved more people than anyone else. And he did pass away immediately, just within a few days of the sinking of the Dorchester. And he was given the first award. The second one was given to a young woman. She was American, but she had gone to South Africa to try to help them with the problems they were having in South Africa. And she was returning to her home with an African girl, and she was stoned to death for what she was doing. And Desmond Tutu awarded the second award from the 4 Chaplains organization to the family of that girl. Recently, this was a crazy story in South Korea, and just a few years ago, there was a ferry, and it had a number of middle school children on it. They were on a trip. And the government, the military in South Korea cannot do anything unless the president gives it the okay. Well, the president was having an affair, and she had asked to not be disturbed, and no one could find her when this ferry started sinking. So the government wasn't even allowed to go help the teachers and the children who were on this ferry. So just recently, they had given an award to the teachers who were on that ship, who gave up their lives to save as many middle school kids as they could.
Oh boy, Charles David. I mean, he should be a household. And I'm embarrassed to say I've never heard of him. I didn't know about his story, and I'm going to look into it. I wrote that down. That's going to be one of my little assignments. I like to do a little research Jack Morrow. Oh, you're holding up a cup of coffee. Jack, did you want to say something? Jack Morrow, hold on a second. I'm going to ask you to unmute.
Yes, I'm here, Todd. Back in 1950, when my wife and I got married, and then we moved to Philadelphia to finish my last year of optometry college, we had the opportunity to go to the church in Philadelphia where the 4 chaplains thing was being dedicated. It was right there about 17th, 18th, 20th Street on Market Street going north. And it was very uplifting. Now we saw they had each one of the altars on a rotating basis, so you could see each one of the altars that you would see in that particular faith. It was very wonderful. This was back in the fall of 1950.
It was in 1950.
Yeah. Now, Todd, if you ever get a chance to go to Philadelphia, they have interviews from almost all of the survivors.
And I did find that the last survivor did pass away 2 years ago in January.
Yep, in Michigan.
Yeah, in Michigan. Yeah, I was hoping there might be a survivor.
A lot of these men didn't have children because they were so young. But I met the daughter of one of the survivors, and she was telling me that her dad not once mentioned it when she was growing up. And he was always in pain because when you're in water that long,
Oh, absolutely.
these people suffered daily with what they had experienced. And she said he would never talk about it. And it really wasn't until after his death that he had left behind, he had written all about it, and he had done the interview with the chapel, but he had never spoken to her about it.
Oh my. And George Fox was the only one, the Methodist minister, his story is amazing. The only one who was married. He had 2 children when he boarded the SS Dorchester. He has 6 grandchildren I know of. And I was thinking of contacting them and maybe having them come on if they, what stories were passed down. His daughter-in-law, Edna, just passed away in November. But George Fox joined the Army for World War II. And on the same day, his son Wyatt joined the Marine Corps.
Oh, wow.
And yes, so his son Wyatt Ray Fox fought through World War II in the Marine Corps, ended up passing away in 96, but he had 6 children. And I would love to get in touch with some of those children to have them
I'm sure if you
talk
reach out
about
to the
their...
chapel, they'll give you information. I met some of his relatives because I went to the 75th anniversary. I don't, again, it's the word celebration doesn't feel right, but they were celebrating the lives of these 4 chaplains. Now, his nephew, who just passed away, was the first person who was in charge of the 4 Chaplains Foundation. And he actually got a letter from the captain of the U-223. And basically it would just said that we were at war. We were both doing what we thought was right. Please forgive me. And so David went to Germany, and I find it interesting. The captain of that U-223 was also in the Olympics, and it was the first time that the 5 rings were used. So there's some connection between the captain of the U-223 and those 5 Olympic rings. But basically, David Fox said to him, "I'm here to forgive you." And he got to interview 3 of the people who were on the U-223. There were 6 still alive, but he got to interview 3 of them. And he said, my uncle would have wanted that. And the chaplains would have wanted me to forgive you. And the whole concept was, we had no idea, like our guys had no idea what they were fighting for. And neither did most of the Nazi soldiers. They had no idea that the person in charge of them, I'm a redhead. He was killing off redheads. He was killing off Jews. He was killing off gay people. He had no idea that that's what they were fighting against.
The other thing that amazes me about George Fox is that, like you said, he had already served. He had volunteered, lied about his age for World War I. He had served at age 17. He had been wounded. I mean, he knew what war was about. He knew what he was getting into.
And he did. And he tried before Pearl Harbor. He actually, just before Pearl Harbor, he tried to get back into the military as a Navy chaplain, and they rejected him. And
I thought that was good. I thought that was Rabbi Good.
Oh, maybe you might be right. Oh, you are. You're correct. That is my fault. Sorry.
Yeah, and I'm curious about why he was rejected, about why Good was rejected from the Navy. Yeah, and you're right. It was before Pearl Harbor. I did a little bit of homework, and that's why I'm not Mr. Smarty Pants. I do a little bit of homework before these sessions, just so that I have a vague idea about what I'm talking about. Usually I don't, but boy, yeah. And Barbara Spaventa makes a wonderful comment here. I've not heard of this, Barbara. She said, on the Zoom side, I just learned this week about another amazing veteran of both World War I and World War II, who, like Charles David, was rarely known. Eugene Bullard, and his book on him, All Blood Runs Red, is a new book that was just released on his life. So that's another note that I've made to check out, another story that I've never heard.
He was known as the Black Swallow. The Black Swallow. Yeah, the Black Swallow of Death.
That doesn't sound good.
It is if you're going after the enemy.
Yeah, that's right. If he's on your side, I guess it is good. Ralph Santucci. We have the Santucci brothers, Ralph and Frank Santucci. Ralph, were you going to say something?
Yes, I have a little short story. It's a change of pace from the kind we usually hear.
This incident occurred September and October 1962 at the height of the Cuban Missile Crisis. At that time, President Kennedy issued an order that would affect certain members of the military. The order read that anyone scheduled for discharge before October 1st would get their discharge. Anyone scheduled for discharge October 1st to February 1st the following year would receive a 4-month extension. This order had no effect on me because I had a lot of time left on my tour. We had 2 men in our barracks who were close friends. One scheduled for discharge September 30th, the other scheduled for discharge October 1st. The one scheduled for discharge September 30th got his discharge, and he did get out. The one scheduled for discharge October 1st received a 4-month extension. On the evening of October 1st, the one man who didn't get out came into the barracks with his guitar, 6-pack of beer, sat on his butt and started to sing. He sang the same song over and over throughout the entire evening. The song that he sang was very appropriate for the situation he was in. The name of the song that he sang over and over was entitled, "What a Difference a Day Makes."
What a difference a day makes.
Yeah, but one day he did discharge on his time, but he got a 4-month extension in the meantime.
Thank you, Ralph. It's good to hear from you, and it's good to see you. And thank you for that story. It is a little different. A
change of pace type story.
A little change of pace, but let me take this opportunity to kind of welcome those who have not joined us before. And I'm looking around to see if there's any. I think we have Alexis Fogan. I'm not sure Alexis has joined us before. If you care to kind of say hello, unmute yourself, you could say hello if you'd like.
Hi, I'm Alexis Vogan. I'm currently an intern at Veterans Leadership Program of Western Pennsylvania. And this week I'm currently working with PA Serve. So they gave me the opportunity to be on this Zoom with you guys. And I'm very thankful for that.
Wonderful. Thank you for joining us, Alexis. And I know of Audrey from PA Serves, Audrey Tomas Cacheda.
You got it.
All right.
Morning, everybody.
Good morning. Thank you for joining us. And finally, I know this is Larry Gamrett's first time to join us. Larry is a Vietnam veteran, an Army veteran. Let's see here. I'm going to unmute you, Larry, and I have a picture I'm going to show of you later in a little bit. If you could click on mute and say hello, feel free to. Okay. We can't hear you, Larry. You got to unmute, but you can work on that and get yourself unmuted there. I do want to let people know that there is a walk-in clinic at the VA Pittsburgh. Oh, Larry, how are you?
I'm doing
Still
pretty
can't
good
hear
right
ya.
now. I finally figured out how to get onto your program. And
very good. We do hear you.
I just wanted to mention about the 4 chaplains, if I could, when you have somebody. And
yeah, go ahead.
Huh?
Yes, please do talk about them.
All right. It was last year prior to the VA at H.A. Hines closing because of the virus. One of the chaplains there had a ceremony for that particular event. All right. And I attended that with my son, Matthew. And that was the first time I really realized, that there was 4 chaplains that did that, I think that was really great, And, and that they were willing to give their life up for their fellow soldier. So I did know a little bit about it, but I didn't really know all about it. There's a lot of things in World War II I don't know, but I'm really interested in learning about it. And so we did have a nice ceremony. We had the bugle and everything to, recognize these fellas. So that's pretty much it. It was a Catholic chaplain that set it up there. And his job
Larry,
has always been, for the veterans. And he lives in Ohio. Right. And him and I would have, and several other veterans would have, he would come to the daycare 2 days a week, and we would sit down and have a discussion and join each other. And so this guy is really great. I hope we can get back to it again. So I'm kind of hoping the VA will open up the daycare again, so we can do that again, because there was a lot of programs on there that were really useful. So, but I'm really happy to be able to get on the computer with you and see you and talk to you. And thank you for helping me out here.
It is great to have you, Larry. Absolutely. And, I'm the same way. I remember it was early on at a breakfast. It was the Veterans Breakfast Club, probably 10 years ago, if not more, that I was at a breakfast and somebody came up to me and said something about, For Chaplains Day was last week. And I said, what is For Chaplains Day? And man, she stood there and blocked my movement for 15 minutes and gave me a nice lecture on the For Chaplains. And that's why I know it today because Carol gave me that lecture about the For Chaplains. And I think what stuns me about the story, how should I put it? Working with veterans over these past 13 years, the story doesn't surprise me. We did a program on chaplains on December 14th. And we had, Ben Wright helped to recruit four or five chaplains who came on. Every one of them would have done the same thing. Every one of these chaplains who came on our program December 14th.
Stop it.
Just stunning to me, the kind of selflessness that I've seen exhibited with chaplains and other members of the military. So I did want to let people know there is another walk-in clinic at VA Pittsburgh on Saturday, 8:30 to 4:30. I'll share information here about it. And I don't know if anybody wants to speak to it. I don't think Ron Gianta is with us here this morning. But it's, again, Saturday, 6th from 8 a.m., I should say, to 4:30 p.m. This is a University Drive campus. You have to be 65 and older. You have to be eligible for VA care. And then it's all according to your last name and the letters of the alphabet. A to G between 8 and 10, H to M between 10 and noon, N to T between 2, and U to Z between 2 and 4. So that is the walk-in clinic on Saturday. And I know that it sounds like, hey, Jim, what do you have to report about it?
I found out about it at this session last week, and I went on Saturday. And with an R, I went afterwards. I walked through the door at 1 o'clock, and I was starting my car at 2:13. And they had done, I talked to the nurse who gave the injection. They'd done 2,000 that morning, and we're hoping to do 3 total for the day. It was really incredibly well done. I mean, they kept us, it's hard to social distance with that many people, but they tried their best. There were a lot of people there. They were very supportive. And to me, it was an incredible operation. If the entire nation's campaign was going as well as that one, most of us would be vaccinated by now, I think. But it's worth doing. What's interesting, I pulled in, the police were there, and they said, go up to the 4th floor, sit in your car till 1 o'clock, and then go, and so I walked through the door at 1 o'clock. They weren't even checking last names. They basically asked, are you in the system? If you don't have your little VA card, they had people there to do intake. So if you're not registered to VA system, you ought to take your DD-214 with you, because they'll put you into the system right then and there so you can get the shot.
Okay, that's the question I have. So if you show up, you're not in the system, if you have your DD-214, they could register you right then and you could get your shot that day?
That's what it looked like to me. I mean, I didn't go over there, but they had men sitting at the intake windows where I got my card a couple of years ago. And there was a person standing there saying, are you in the system? And one person said no, and he pointed him over to the window. So that's my assumption, but they're going to do their best to vaccinate every veteran they can. And it's the Pfizer vaccine that we're getting. Plus, they don't let you leave till they give you an appointment for the second shot. And the second shot is on a weekday. For me, it's a Wednesday. So you get that particular aspect too.
And at VA Pittsburgh, it is the Pfizer. Yeah, it is the Pfizer vaccines, and that's 3 weeks in between number 1 and 2. Mm-hmm. Joe Dornbrock?
Yeah, my experience was completely different, and I was in the morning. I arrived in a very long line of cars that started all the way down at Shenley High School at 8 o'clock. Made it into the parking garage at 8:45, but not until one of the VA police explained, sit in your car until 9:30, somebody will come for you. Well, nobody ever did. In fact, one of the other vets waiting had gone to check, and he came back and said, no, you've got to get in a line downstairs on the first floor of the parking garage. As you may know, it was about 20 some degrees that morning, and we had a line of a couple hundred veterans waiting for a good long time. I was in that line 45 minutes before, and near the end of that line, by the way, before I got into the building. Now, someone figured out at about that time it was probably a really bad idea to have a bunch of fellows 65 and older standing outside in 20-degree weather. The process, while it moved at a snail's pace, at least it was inside for the last couple hours of it. And I finally received my shot at 11:45. What Jim Roberts was saying was accurate about the detail, the ability to get registered on the spot. I myself had all the paperwork I needed. I was ready to go in the system. They were able to run me through. And you know, from the big picture aspect of that, I'm very grateful. And I do have my appointment for a little less than 3 weeks from now for the second shot. But it is clear they made some vast improvements between morning and afternoon. And based on what I saw leaving that parking garage at about 20 minutes after noon, it was obvious that the line coming in for the afternoon session was shorter. So that proportion of about 2,000 getting a shot in the morning to about 1,000 in the afternoon looked about right. On the other hand, I have to wonder about what went on for the previous 2 Saturdays with the 75-year-olds and older. Needless to say, I'm going to be making some inquiries because it was not well organized in the morning.
Todd?
Yes. And then Don Nemchek. Yes.
What they did for us in the afternoon, like I said, I don't know. They basically took us to the intake and they walked us down a long hallway. They had pods of 10, or there were about 10 of us in the group, 10 chairs. You'd sit down for a minute and move. Right. They walked us in a huge circle through the building. We came back to the entry point to get the shot. So they pulled us all inside, which to me was working very smoothly. Okay. And so that was probably due to the pressure of the morning group that was there. Normally I like to go early, but since I'm an R, I didn't. But I guess this was a good time not to be at the beginning of the alphabet.
Yes. Don Nemchek, then Rick Weber.
Yeah, thanks, Todd. Like Jim, I went in the afternoon, but here's my story, and I'll make it quick. I had a buddy that went in the morning, and he told me of the long line and the congestion in the parking garage. So I'm only about 15 or 20 minutes away from Oakland, so I took an Uber instead of driving my own car and going into the garage. I got off my Uber, I walked into the front door. A very nice gentleman greeted me and said, "You here for your shot?" I said, "Yes, sir." He pointed me to the left, and there was a line, and we shuffled along. I was in there at 1, I was out at 1:45. I was so impressed with the professionalism and the dedication of the staff, I was compelled to email the director, which I did on Sunday morning, congratulating him. That man, a U.S. Navy retired JAG officer, returned my email within 15 minutes on Sunday morning, thanking me for participating. He did say he was concerned because he was on site in the morning. And he did know there was quite some lines. They must have made some adjustments. They never asked me for anything, a card. I just filled out my form. I am in the system. I wasn't overly concerned with it, but how fluid and how congenial everyone else left an impression with me, which compelled me not only to email the director, but I sent a letter to the editor for the Post-Gazette, which should be published soon, I hope. But that said, I know how that morning was, and some of the guys were standing outside, and I feel badly for the fellow that had a not as good experience as I did. Whether I got lucky or not, I wasn't trying to beat the system, but I kind of had a feeling that garage was going to be crowded, so I just Ubered up. But I did also learn, I was talking to one of the staff at the VA while I was in line. There's a sign there that they will vaccinate veterans Monday through Friday, 8 to 4, and you just have to walk in and tell them you want a vaccination. So if anyone has concerns with the long lines of a clinic, I think they're making vast improvements. But a heads up, they also are bringing in veterans from Washington County, Fayette County, and others. So that's going to, perhaps in vans. So that's going to jam up the system somewhat. They might want to think about, if possible, going up to Oakland maybe during the weekday. The staff member said, sir, we're never going to turn a veteran away. If you're in the system or not, as Jim said, they'll enroll you. So you might want to circumvent the clinic and go up either Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, go Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday, because they said there's no lines, there's just patients going in. They will not turn you away, as I am told. So just to add on to what the other fellows are saying, I had an extremely good experience. The morning session, I understand, was a little bit jammed up, but I think the reason why, because they had more advertising. It was on KDK, Marty Griffin's show. They were on TV, and I think that piqued everybody's interest, and word of mouth, of course. And then that afternoon settled right down. I was supposed to be there at 1. I was there at 10:02. No one asked me any questions, asked me for my IDs or my name or anything. And I just zipped in and zipped right out. So perhaps I was the fortunate one at this time.
And I know that Sue Watson just put in the comments the same thing, that she knows 12 veterans who, of all ages, who walked in and got jabbed in the arm. And a lot of this, my understanding is that the VA has a different supply system than the rest of the country. And so they have the vials. And once that vial is open, man, you got to get those shots out. So I think if you show up and you have an arm, you'll get a jab. Rick Weber, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I am. At VA Fox Chapel, Harry called me 2 weeks ago and said he had an appointment. I said, oh, great. And so I made the call on a Tuesday afternoon. I was there Thursday. Harry and I went together. I said, do you have any openings? Or she said, do you want your shot? And I said, yes. And I asked her how they, and she said, well, we do it by initials. I said, look for VR. She said, his appointment's 10:30. She said, what can I get? And I said, we'll come together. And she said 11 o'clock. We showed up at 10 o'clock. We were back at his house before 11. And we parked in a handicap because Harry drove from his house. Inside, there was and I asked the young lady, how many are you doing a day? She said, right now we're doing about 200 a day. We're adding another area, another entrance. We were never within 5 feet of anybody else. And I asked them how many they had. She said 30,000. So if you really want to be safe, go. It's a much cleaner, much easier to park. They have ample parking. Go to the VA at Hines. Okay. It was in and out, and they were fantastic. And they gave us the appointment. We were sitting in a room. We were kibitzing with everybody. It was done classy. I got to tell you. So go to the VA.
Yeah, if you're not going to the walk-in, I would suggest that you call ahead of time.
You had to have an appointment, and they ask you your name. After that, you just went in, and whatever time you got there, we actually got in front of guys that had appointments ahead of us because they said, next one in, you're up.
Right, you're up. John Kramer.
Yeah, one thing, Todd, I was looking at the news this morning, and they said the VA has vaccinated more people than 42 of the states in the United States.
Oh, I believe it.
The VA's done a fantastic job. And I actually went on the very first day they offered this because I'm a volunteer at the VA, and it was fantastic. They took care of everybody.
Yeah.
Exactly. I believe, and I do think it's a whole different pipeline of the vaccines to the VA than the rest of the world. And I want to just offer to anybody else who has an announcement that they want to make about anything. Okay, Larry Gamrett, then Jack Morrow. Larry.
Okay, I went to the Oakland branch, for the VA, and I just walked in, told them who I was, gave them my last four and my name, and they just took me right in and gave me the shot. I think some of the slowdown was because you have to wait 15 minutes after you get the shot before you can leave. And that was one of the issues, but I went right through, and they made another appointment for me for my second one, and there's no problem at all. I had no problems at all. So I guess maybe it's on whatever day you go there,
Right.
It
right.
worked very well for me. I had no problems at all with it. I'm very happy to be able to get it. Yeah.
Jack Morrow.
Yes. I had an appointment yesterday at the VA clinic up in Rochester, and it was very neatly done. I know that they have walk-ins because I could hear people talking when they come in. No, they didn't have a problem, just came. And I know they took care of it. So I don't know how long or how many days they're doing it at Rochester, but it was very efficiently done.
That's great. I mean, it's amazing to me that many of the veterans who come on our events are going to have had their second vaccine by, Valentine's Day. I mean, they'll be, by the end of February, they'll be ready to circulate. That's amazing to me. I do want to invite anybody who has an announcement. I don't know, Beth Ruschel. Oh, good. Yes, with Honor Flight. How are you doing, Beth? Good to see you.
I'm good, but it's not good news. We
Uh-oh.
we were told last week that our national board had to make the tough decision to suspend all of our spring trips.
Yeah.
So it makes sense, obviously, but so we're suspended through June 30th. I'm really praying that that the distribution of the vaccine rollout happens swiftly, and that that we can go on our fall trips, because we have about like 128 people due to go on the trip, and then like wait list people. And there's actually one or two gentlemen I see here that I was looking at the list of names last night. So that's the reason I wanted to let you know that we are unfortunately suspended through the spring, and hopefully we will be able to go in the fall.
And this is Beth Ruschel. She's on the board of the local Honor Flightberg here. And Honor Flight is a national organization that takes veterans. Is it just World War II veterans to the World War II Memorial, or is it now Korea, Vietnam?
World War II, Korea, and Vietnam.
Okay, very good. And so all the trips for the spring have been suspended, but after, and we're kind of like, we made that same call, is that our in-person events we're considering suspended until June 30th, at least. And we hope that second half of the year we'll be able to get back together face to face. Yeah. Thank you, Beth. Thank you. And did Isla Cole get her vaccination, huh?
Yep, she did. She's so excited.
Excellent. Excellent. Are there any other announcements here that anybody wants to make?
Hey, Todd.
Yeah. Hey, Rick.
You have two ladies from VA Serves. A lot of us aren't maybe not familiar with VA Serves. I am. And I'm a member of the SOS, which is Save Our Sentinels. We take care of, and your friend and everybody's friend, Warren Goss, got a $100,000 donation to start it. VA Serves is terrific. If you don't know about them, you need to, because they're the gap between the VA and the veterans, and groups like ours. They do all our heavy lifting, and they vet us, and then we're able to donate money or give money to veterans who need it immediately. So
yeah, this is PA Serves, right? Part of like U.S. That's another nationwide organization.
I just want to acknowledge that they're terrific.
They are terrific. And Audrey is here representing PA Serves. They are a great conduit that if you ever have a need, or a veteran who is in need, or just has a question about their benefits or any kind of services or resources that might be relevant to them, go to PA Serves and they'll get an answer for you. Right, Audrey?
Yep. Thank you. And thanks, Rick. I'll put the information on how to contact us in the chat. I'll put it in there again.
That's great.
Yes.
Thank
you, Audrey.
service.
Thank you very much. And, Sue asked where Julia Parsons is. That was a direct message to me. And I was just going to bring her up because she emailed me saying she has an appointment at the VA today, and Julia can't make it this morning here on the Zoom side, and she's going to miss it. And I told her, well, Julia, we're going to miss you, but I hate to tell you that we're going to use this as a planning session for your 100th birthday party. So it's just as well as you can't make it. Julia Parsons she's a Navy Wave, turns 100 years old on March 2nd, which is a Tuesday, and we're going to have a 100th birthday party here for her that evening. And I have been going back and forth a little bit about preparing for the party. I know Jim Jameson, who was here and had to leave, he wants to take her a cake and ice cream. So Rick, you have a sign that says happy 100th birthday, correct?
Yeah, I have a 6-foot banner that I made for my mother, who was her 100th birthday. She's not with us anymore, December 30th. And I also had it for my dad, who turned 100, January 23rd. So it's available for anyone. It says happy 100th birthday, and I'm able to change the name. I have a marketing company. So yeah, and I took it out. You saw the picture. It's a 6-foot banner.
Yep.
So yes, it's available to anybody. I love it. I mean,
I think,
and we talked about it. Mary Goss knows about it. Guy, I'm taking it out to guys. Guy, the piece is going to be 99, April 23rd, and I already talked to
in
him.
April.
And I'm taking it out to 100, and I'm going to say -1. So I'm not going to 100.
That's Guy.
But yeah, anyone anyone vet that needs it, I have it, and I'm honored to do it because I've had this sign for over 30 years. It keeps adding to it. When my best friend turns 60, I made the sign. So right now it's actually 4 signs.
I agree. I think we should have a sign. Beth Ruschel says a parade out in front of her house. I think that's a great idea. Beth, you just volunteered to organize that. That's terrific. I think that's great. Yeah, honk our horns, have some balloons, stuff like that.
Police
and
escort.
Then, I asked her what kind of police escort exactly.
I mean, Todd, if you can pull this off,
yeah,
you have Dr. Wright there. We did one for Warren the same day they were honoring this is last year when they were honoring the workers at the hospital, and they had C-130s fly over. And I called my friend out there because they were going over Swickley Hospital, and they went right over at Warren's house. And it was great. So yeah, I mean,
Larry Coogan can get right
fire
on that.
trucks,
We'll put Larry in
whatever.
charge of that.
100 years old, believe me, they're willing to do it. We had a police escort. We had a police escort to
I
Warren.
love that.
I mean,
okay, so that could be done. You're not.
Oh,
okay, all right.
And Joe, help me out. The attorney that gave you that Kilroy sign. The Kilroy sign.
Yeah.
Help me out.
Yes. Yeah.
My memory. Joe was playing big band music,
memory's
and Warren Goss and Mary were dancing to big band music in their yard.
Okay. Well, you've given me some good ideas then. Fire department, police department, a flyover.
Well, I don't know about the flyover, but we can get kites.
How do we get the Navy represented, Chris Parolo? I mean, can we get a ship to sail past our house somehow in Forest Hills? Maybe. But we'll have to.
Maybe do a float like PT 109.
She was Navy after all, so we have to get the Navy has to be represented somehow. Okay, this is good. Thank you. I'm serious. These are great ideas. I think I need some help in I'm not a big thinker. I'm a little thinker. So this is very helpful, Rick. I'm serious. Very helpful. Thank you. And Beth, I would not have thought of a parade. I do also want to introduce Ed. Yeah, Ed Skirtich, what are you going to say? Why don't you unmute yourself there, Ed?
First, I wanted to say, is this lady Navy?
She is Navy.
Just for the fun of it, I wrote a script for Top Gun, and I played Maverick, and I had all kind of different people, actors and actresses from across the United States read the script. So I actually wrote a script of Top Gun. If people want to read the parts, like I play Maverick, and have people like the Goose, Iceman, Viper, Charlene. It's a really fun script. It's all like for kids. So
yeah, And Ed, your sister is a retired Air Force flight nurse, and I actually found a picture of her, Colonel retired.
Oh, great. Thanks.
That is a picture of her and your
Yeah,
parents
that's my dad,
right
my
after
dad, and my mother. So she came home from war.
right after
So
from Desert Storm,
Desert
30 years ago.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And I would love to, I would love to get her on our program if we could sometime.
Yeah. Also, I wrote something for Sean. It's really quick. It's only a couple pages, but
I'm here for you, Ed. I don't know what part I'm playing. Which part would you like me to play?
It was Sergeant Spriggs.
I don't get to play you?
No, I'm playing me.
Okay.
So this is kind of a fun story I read to my sister. I was a music major at West Virginia University, and I'm practicing in a room, and Sergeant Spriggs is the recruiter. So he called me and talked me about Roseanne, and it's a really fun little script read. We'll start at the top.
All right. I'm ready when you are.
Ed?
Yes?
When were you at WVU?
I was there in 1987 to 1993.
Okay. I was there in 65. I was trying to be a clarinet major and they told me to find something I could do.
Oh yeah. The funny part was my drum instructor for the WVU band was April Min. She was really tough for me. And the fun thing was she made the Marine Corps Paris Island band, so that was pretty neat.
That was always our dig back in art school. Have you ever thought of a career in accounting?
Right.
Okay. Interior, West Virginia University Creative Arts Center, practice room, February 1st. Eddie Scarlett is practicing his trumpet in the practice room. Eddie Scarlett, Sharon here again in the practice room, y'all. Rather, I'm from Pittsburgh, PA, Jens. New language, Pittsburghese. Down South talk. Jenny Miles Davis. Always new talk and new language too. Mono blues, cool blues, all blues. All right. Hey.
Hi.
Hi, Sergeant Spriggs.
Yes, sir. It's Sergeant Spriggs.
Oh no.
Exactly. The enemy saying, oh no, for
my sister Roseanne.
Your sister Roseanne is the best nurse and soldier the Air Force can have.
True. She always was a good fighter. Thankfully never injured me and my 3 other brothers.
Takes good care of you.
Yes, sir, she does. Great sister. Mom someday too. So what's up?
Gulf War's up, and she...
Oh no, oh no.
That's what the enemy is saying right now. Oh no, for your sister Roseanne. Okay, truthfully, our troops get severely injured just a little. She gets them better quick. Gets them so good that they get back to fighting again. She's the best in our U.S. military.
Oh, very cool to hear, Sergeant Spriggs. So she's okay?
She'll be fine. She'll be excellent. Although...
Oh.
Everything is great. Cool. She's the best. Top secret location. She'll be fine. She's isolated, but she loves you, wants you to be okay. She wants you to take care of you. She says you're the brother, and she plays great jazz. Says you the man.
I try to stay kid full of imagination.
We'll all be fine. This war will be over very soon. she's looking forward to seeing you soon at West Virginia University.
Yahoo! To her in the U.S. military, make peace soon. And
I'll do that. Peace, Eddie. Scene.
Thank you. Thank you, Ed, and thank you, Sean, for that rendition. And again, Ed, if you want to contact your sister Rose and invite her to come on our program anytime, we'd love to hear about her service, not only in Desert Storm, but her career as a flight nurse. I think that's I'm sure she has a fascinating story, and I know her husband also has one.
yes.
And this is, yeah. So please do let her know that we'd love to have her on and kind of share her story and her family history. This is the third anniversary.
Thanks for letting me do this. It was fun. I put it together last night. I thought it'd be pretty cool to do. So
yes, and I love. What is it? All Blues? Was that it? Miles Davis, All Blues?
So like I was actually practicing it, and I found out about the war started. Like when I was at the CAC. I was also in the Roman Catholic Newman Club, and I found out that the war just started and everything. So it was neat how she was able to communicate. She wrote letters and everything, and it was a brutal time for us for health's sake, but we all got through it. And God bless all you guys in the military. I was close. I did West Virginia University was ROTC based, so I did that. Officially, I was never in the military, but I was pretty close. So
I think it's interesting because was it last week we had Richard Casper on from Creative Vets, and he was talking about how he uses art with veterans to help heal PTSD. I guess he didn't really think a lot of the Blue Star families could use art as well to sort of talk through the trauma that they experienced with their loved ones going off to war. So I think it's a good way to sort of get thoughts out and get them written down, and it's definitely a creative way to use that.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I'll get my top script out and get you guys. We can brainstorm for that lady's 100th birthday.
Well, what I want to know is, I just played a sergeant right here in front of you, everyone live, and there's a room full of veterans here, and I just want to get some honest feedback about how I did. Was it Oscar worthy? Was it okay?
It was great.
Well, of course.
You thought about being an accountant?
I did.
You were good, but stay on radio.
Okay.
Yeah, this is a tough crowd, Sean. I tell you. Hey, Larry Googans, you have something to announce about Chester VA Clinic and
Todd, I just talked with a VA clinic in Rochester, PA, and the deal for the COVID-19 shots. Some may know this. They do have it. They are distributing them, but they're doing it by you have to call up and get a reservation because they don't have a large facility to pass them out. So if you can't make it to Oakland, you call the VA clinic in Rochester. I'll get the number for you, Todd, and make an appointment. Now they are right now backlogged for almost a month. So if you make an appointment at Rochester, you're not going to get it till March. But if you can't, my opinion now, if you can't get to Oakland, call them. Now I'm going to give you another opinion, Todd. You probably figure this one out. I think we all can. If you're in dire need and you really have some disability issues, and you call the clinic or go there, my opinion is they're not going to turn you away, but be fair. They can't take everybody. They only have a small clinic, as you know. So, but they do have it. They are giving it. It's the Pfizer shot because they're attached to the Pittsburgh VA. So I just wanted to update that. There's been a lot of questions in our chapter about the Rochester clinic, and that they have it. You can go there. You need to make an appointment. They just can't handle a deluge of people, as you might know. So that's a straight poop, hot off the press 5 minutes ago. Thanks,
Very
Todd.
good.
Yeah.
Straight poop? Is that what you said?
Straight poop. I think we all know what that is.
I've not heard that term before.
You haven't? Well, that's because you're too young, Sean. The rest of
Usually
us
the
have
problem.
heard it. Yeah. I know Robert's heard it. Robert, you've heard that, right? Straight poop?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Hey,
okay. See, Sean, you're just too young. All right.
Yeah.
Thanks. Thanks, Todd.
That reminds me. In the Navy, what is the poop deck?
That's the, I think that's the, when you gotta clean the very top of the top of the ship, I think. The middle.
Is that
section.
true? Chris Perello, Dennis McCarthy, we need a Navy vet to clear this up.
Damn, he's right. It's near the bridge somewhere, but it is in a higher elevation and it's a small area here, but I can't remember its use. I have to look that up. Sorry.
You want
Oh, Dale Gower, you have to know. Coast Guard poop deck. What are we talking about here?
I think
Dale
that
will
was
know, guarantee.
vessels. I don't know that
That
they
was
have
what?
them on modern. It
Cutters
was on
didn't have
sailing
them?
vessels. I don't know that they have them on modern ships, though. But I thought it was
Okay.
towards the aft part of the ship. But I have no idea what it means. I've never been on a sailboat in my life. So.
Todd, this is Brian Long. I'm reading from another screen right now. The poop deck is the aftermost and highest deck of a ship, especially a sailing ship where it typically forms the roof of a cabin in the stern.
Hey. Oh, but is it only on sailing ships, Brian?
It says especially in a sailing ship.
Especially.
Okay, that's good. All right, especially in a sailing ship. That sounds good.
I'll read the rest of it if I may. Some say that the poop deck got its name from sailors who would drop trousers from the rear of the ship.
Makes sense.
That totally makes sense.
Beth Ruschel says, anyone heard of the Army Air Force poop sheets? I mean, VBC, we run the gamut of everything that you can talk about.
Scatological Wednesday here. Yeah, let's see. Poop sheets, Army Air. Yes, Chris.
I'm thinking this, it's possible that like the water cooler, the poop deck is where you shared information, and therefore, then
Like
you got the
Gary,
poop, which is scuttlebutt.
exactly what it is.
So you can
That's
change
exactly
your name to the
what it
program.
is.
The poop.
That's exactly what it is. Yep, I buy that. That is, Don Nemchik. Is that? Do you concur? Don put in the chat here that it could be rumors, Navy lingo. Yeah, the straight poop. Yeah, like scuttlebutt. Absolutely. Yep.
I'm
I
using
concur.
that on the next scuttlebutt. That's the new phrase of the week.
And so hold it, Don. Okay, like Don also added in the chat, and I've never heard this, that Popeye's father was.
You can't even say it.
I'm trying to keep a straight face.
Wait
Popeye's
for it.
father was named Poop Deck Pappy.
Not much gives Todd the giggles, but this one.
Okay.
That's
All right.
familiar.
That's Poop Deck Pappy was father. Man, I would love to meet Poop Deck Pappy. He had stories.
He had the stories.
That's great
He was-
trivia.
Man.
That's right.
That's really good trivia.
And you know,
Several of the cartoons.
all right, I got to stop laughing here.
You got the
I
church
see-
giggles.
Oh my gosh, Mary, I got to
Church
tell you,
giggles are the best.
yes, and Ellie will tell you that nobody makes me laugh. My wife, she could just look, and I'll start laughing,
Oh, yeah.
and that's bad when you're at a funeral.
Oh yeah, been there.
That's bad.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Church
So,
giggles are the worst.
Todd, Larry, thank
Yeah.
you. You're welcome for me bringing up a new word for you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Larry.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So
I
back to
see-
the question about the poop sheet in the Air Force. It says here that at the briefing the morning of a mission, the pilots were handed typed up sheets with the details for the missions. They were called poop sheets because they were supposed to be destroyed so that they wouldn't fall into enemy hands. So one can only imagine,
And
I
it
guess,
was-
how they were destroyed.
That's right.
And so they were the
Makes us-
description of what the mission was. When you got the straight poop,
Yeah.
the what the mission was going to be, because until then
Yeah.
you didn't know.
Right.
And when
Beth
This
says
is a
they weren't
great
destroyed, though. She's read many of them.
Needs must.
This is a very clarifying conversation. All right, let's I'm gonna shift gears just a little bit because I see Jack Watson is with us, and you'll know Jack is a Marine. Hello, Jack. Good morning, Jack. Good to see you again. and he served on Iwo Jima. Many of you have heard the story. Some of you will remember that there was an 11-year-old boy who lived in England. He was an American living in England, who wrote to Jack and listened to Jack's interview on the internet, and wrote to Jack a letter and sent Jack a sketch. Well, now 2 years later, Charlie Greer is his name, is now 13 years old, and he emailed me a sketch. He's really become quite the artist. He did a sketch of Jack Watson in World War II, and he asked me to share it back. And so I told him that I would see you this morning, Jack. And here is what Charlie Greer sent to me.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's terrific.
Yeah. This is a 13-year-old Charlie Greer took a photo of Jack Watson, put him in Marine fatigues, 1945. And I think it's a dead ringer, Jack.
That's wonderful.
I
think it was very good.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I mean, you were handsome, but I don't know if you were that handsome. And
I wasn't wealthy either.
That is just a wonderful, because you could always tell the Marines had that camouflage helmet, right? Like a cover over the, I believe.
Right.
And I should search for a photo here. I'll share a photo here. Let me. So Jack, Charlie has not written you and sent you that?
No, I have not received that.
Okay. I told Charlie that I wanted him to come on our program sometime with you here, and he could share it. He could share it himself. So I think he will do that. Let's see. I'm going to flash a review to share so people know what you look like. Okay, hold on a second. I will get there. I will get there.
You're persistent.
Hold on. I am persistent. Wait for it. This I'm looking for. Okay, here is the one I'm looking for. This one. So you can see, yeah, that's the picture that he used to base his sketch on.
Wow.
And it's terrific. And Jack, I love the story of this picture. You said the hat was fake and the dress blues were fake?
Yes. I did not own dress blues. They were studio.
So they were open in the back.
The cap had an elastic in the back of it so it would fit any size. The jacket had elastic straps in the back, and they would just tighten those to make the uniform fit.
So most Marines, even though a lot of Marines join the Marines because they, I mean, this is a very much an overstatement. Some Marines join the Marines in part because the dress blues look so good. And yet many Marines serve in the Marines without ever wearing dress blues. Is that correct?
Yes.
Jack Morrow, Dan Vaughn, that is correct. Okay.
Yeah.
It is my information that if you serve in the Navy on board the ship, you got dress blues, but otherwise we did not.
Only if you served with the Navy on a ship.
Yeah. You were entitled to dress blues if you were shipboard.
Oh, I didn't know that.
But Todd, we're talking about contingent of Marines who are aboard ship either for security or ceremonial purposes or something like that. So they need that uniform for deck watches and those kinds of ceremonies.
Yeah.
I'm still laughing about poop deck. And I'm sorry, but Sue Watson, Jack's daughter, said, I feel like I'm back in middle school. Sue Watson, a middle school teacher, is used to this kind of conversation. So what, Dan Vaughn, if you want to weigh in, when else do you wear dress blues in the Marines? Is it for only formal ceremonial occasions? Okay. Okay. That sounds good. I think we straighten that out. Let me, oh, Mary Klepper, thank you for emailing Mary after our program on Monday night, because you pointed out that there is a Desert Shield, Desert Storm Memorial planned in Washington, D.C. And I think the groundbreaking is scheduled for this year for the 30th anniversary. I don't know if it's behind schedule or not. Do you know anything about the memorial?
I don't. I haven't even been down to DC at all in 2020 to even see the Eisenhower Memorial, which I'm anxious to see. So I don't want to, I just haven't gone down with the pandemic and everything. No reason to, with everything closed. So.
Yes, and you could, if you want to check out the memorial website, is ndswm.org, the National Desert Shield or Desert Storm War Memorial.org. And you can see plans for the memorial. And then also there's a video of it. And I thought I'd share, it's a 3-minute video that, let's see here, that kind of lays out what the plan is. Here it is, lays out the plan. So why don't I, you know what, I'm going to share I have to make sure I share my sound so you could hear it. Right here. Okay. Here we go. Whoop. Did I not? Okay. Here we go. So you could go to that website and a little bit more about the memorial. I think it would be great to have the people who are involved in the design and the, raising money for the memorial on our program sometime, have them talk about it. Yes, Ed.
Sorry to interrupt, but my sister Rosanna is also, her picture's up in the Women's Memorial in the big thing at the Washington D.C. They have the woman thing in there, and her picture's up there in her Air Force uniform. So.
Are you talking about the Women's Memorial at the entrance to Arlington?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Most people never go there. It's fantastic.
Yeah, well, my sister's up there. If you punch in her name, her maiden name is Roseanne Skirtich. Her married name is Popovich, but Roseanne Skirtich, she's up there. So if you want to look up your family members, you can punch in the thing and they put the picture up. So
cool.
Yes. Yeah, the Women's Memorial. So yes, Chris Perillo, and I understand that the video was frozen about that. I was able to watch it, but I guess it wasn't coming through on Zoom. Yes, Chris.
I looked up the figures here, Todd, and there were 383 casualties of Desert Storm, Desert Shield, 467 wounded, considered wounded here.
Right.
But I was a volunteer with Allegheny County Red Cross at that time. And in our briefings nationwide, believe it or not, and God forbid, the Pentagon had told the Red Cross to gear up for 10,000 casualties.
Yeah.
And we were trained to receive people take families to the airport and help facilitate those events there. But I couldn't fathom 10,000 casualties when they said that, but we were geared up for that. Thank God it was such a low figure.
Yeah, I mean, this was a war that saw just the direct clash of 700,000 troops versus 500,000 troops right there in a pretty small space in the desert. You would expect 10,000 casualties. I mean, I think that was the great stunner of that war, is that so many Iraqi soldiers surrendered before the casualties mounted.
If you believe the bluster of how the Republican Guard and defending the homeland and the weapons they had and the chemical weapons, it was not a walk in the park. They were, luckily it was, because a lot of that resistance crumbled and things never happened that they thought would happen. But they were anticipating a hell of a battle, more than they got. Thank God.
The Iraqi army, I understand, was the fourth largest army in the world at the time, 1 million soldiers in it. It had just come off a devastating 8-year war against Iran that I think eroded a lot of the morale in the Army. But boy, what a wonderful conversation today, wide ranging. We left a lot of stories on the table. I know Larry Gamrot, I have some photos I wanted to show of you, and next time I see Frank and Ralph Santucci, I'll share photos of them. Clem, did you have something you wanted to say? Clem Blazewick?
Don't know if Clem's mic is working. He
Oh,
went back
oh,
to mute. Let's try to unmute him again
okay,
and see if
yeah. Let's see here. Clem, we are trying to unmute you here. If you could unmute your, there you go. You're unmuted. But the mic must not be working. Oh, okay. All right. Well, how about this? We have a program tomorrow, don't we, Sean? Tomorrow night.
We do. I'm super excited for it. First episode of our new program, Generation 9/11 at 20. This program is going to focus on veterans who served through 9/11 or after 9/11. We'll go through our normal business to begin, but we're going to bring on Brad Washabaugh, who many of you have met on our Zoom calls over the last couple of months. He served until, I believe it was 2003, 2004. Has a really interesting story, as he was actually working at the Pentagon the day of 9/11. I'm interested in dissecting the last 20 years of my generation's war and really digging into the weeds a bit of how everything developed from 9/11 on, something that we'll continue to do each week. So I'm hoping to have everybody come and join me Thursday night as we highlight those veterans' stories. And if you know of anybody who served post 9/11 that you'd like to connect me to, I'm trying to build a lexicon of names to get people on and hear these stories. So yeah, hope to see you all there.
That's a good point. Yeah, if you know anybody who served since September 11th, 2001, yeah, let us pass along their contact information. Would love to have them come on and share their story. The goal is to kind of commemorate with the 20th anniversary of 9/11, to commemorate that generation that was really shaped by that event and how their lives have been shaped in the past 20 years by that event, and especially, our veterans. So yeah, please do let us know if you have who would like to come on. Would love to have them on. All right. So hopefully I'll see many of you tomorrow night. And I see Andy Glade, and it reminds me that I did not announce or have you announce the passing of Captain Thomas Moore, who is the 99-year-old British captain who became famous this spring during COVID-19 by walking in his front yard to recover from a broken hip. He wanted 1,000 pounds for the National Health Service. He ended up raising 33 million pounds for the National Health Service. He was knighted by Queen Elizabeth last year with a very long sword, the longest sword I think I've ever seen. And he said it was the greatest day of his life to be knighted. So he's actually Captain Sir Thomas Moore, just died of COVID-19, I think yesterday or the day before. So rest in peace, Captain Tom. All right. Hope to see you all tomorrow night.